All right, let's get started. Thanks everybody for coming to today's session for network attached storage in the cloud with Amazon FSx. My name's David Stein. I'm a principal go-to-market specialist within our storage group at AWS. And I'm joined today by Nikhil Srivastava. I'll be talking for about 15 minutes. Nikhil, who's our FSx product manager for a few of our FSx services that we'll be talking about today, will come and talk to you for the next 30 minutes or so. We expect about 45 minutes of content. I'm going to give you a quick overview at the beginning of why move file storage to the cloud and how FSx can help you. And Nikhil will go a little bit deeper into the features and technologies and some recently announced features as well. All right, because of data's role in applications like HPC, analytics, data AI, ML, databases, organizations are reaching unprecedented scale with their data sets. And we expect over time, hundreds of zettabytes of data are being added worldwide, and we expect that to double over the coming years. And a lot of that is file data. So what's driving the acceleration? Certainly there's organic growth around things like corporate IT and user shares and application and database data, but we're seeing a proliferation of data around video and media use cases, around AI and ML adoption, autonomous simulation, IoT and devices. These are all things that are contributing to the significant amount of growth where we expect this type of data to double over time. But why is so much of it file storage? Well, it's because file storage has a rich history. It's been around for 50 years, and it's been developed, and it has a default interface that a lot of applications use. Like most modern applications have been designed to interface with file. And they leverage operating system file protocols like SMB and NFS, which comes default with any of your operating systems. And those applications by default have been designed and carried on with file systems over the years, because it provides simple shared access for multiple users, multiple applications, and it's, and it's got the high performance that's needed to supply this shared file storage, a simple shared file storage for all these different types of applications and users. Most file systems need to be able to support hundreds, if not thousands, of different users and protocols, and be able to do that across sometimes just a single storage array in the cloud, or sometimes multiple different arrays in the cloud or in on-prem. And file storage use cases span all across the enterprise. You've got corporate IT use cases around user shares and home directories, enterprise IT applications that all drive this simple shared file storage that need a certain level of performance. We also have line of business applications, things like the energy sector, healthcare, financial, and manufacturing that all have very specific industry applications that have been designed over time to work with file data. We also have modern applications like machine learning that need a file interface to get the performance to analyze data quickly, SaaS applications that are often sometimes born in the cloud that need to be able to share data across many different servers. We have software build environments where you need to be able to share storage between different workflows as you build your dev environment. Backup and disaster recovery use cases where you've got either you're replicating data from different file systems, or you're backing up to a file system to keep a secondary or tertiary copy for your data compliance reasons. Web serving and content management systems that need shared file storage. Data science and analytics workflows where you need things like home directories and scientists to be able to share and collaborate on information, and different types of DevOps platforms that also rely on simple and shared file storage. But accelerating this file storage on premises presents a unique set of challenges. First is predicting future growth needs. When you buy on-premises file storage, you've got to predict and provision a certain amount of storage. You have to guess about how much storage you're going to need. If you over-provision, you're going to be sitting on a lot of wasted capacity. If you under-provision, you risk having performance issues for your users. It also becomes increasingly challenging to maintain resiliency and ensure security across many disparate storage systems in many different data centers. As data sets grow and you have to add drives and systems to it, as you have to set up systems in other data centers to serve either different users or create secondary copies for DR, it becomes complex to maintain this resiliency and make sure that your data is constantly available and replicated and secure. It becomes challenging to optimize your data storage cost, especially as you're adding more drives and adding more storage systems into your environment. You get sprawl pretty quickly and you don't necessarily know what you have. And then it becomes challenging to gain insight from your data, because all your data might be sitting in multiple different arrays and you're using it for a single purpose, but there's not much you can do beyond that to drive additional insights to your data to help your business. Switching NAS solutions can take months to years. So customers look at purchasing these file systems as a network attached storage or NAS system, where you've got a kind of self-contained system like NetApp ONTAP or other types of NAS systems where you buy your controllers and you have your disk and your operating system that helps manage all these file access protocols and performance. Switching them, once you kind of like rely on a certain vendor and you've got that workflow built into it, it could take a long time to switch, as each NAS solution offers a unique set around data access features, around performance profiles, around data management APIs that are unique to that specific NAS vendor. So migrating it often requires recertifying, re-architecting, retraining your staff. And so with AWS, we offer fully managed file storage in the cloud. Fully managed meaning that we want to make it so that we provide a lot of the same familiarities of using these file systems so you don't have to change, but also in a way that's fully managed so that you could easily deploy a file system within minutes without having to worry about setup and installation of the file system, of dealing with ongoing management and maintenance, making it easy to scale as you grow, and not having to deal with multiple purchases, including licensing and support. We try to bring it all under a single umbrella with a single vendor. And so what fully managed NAS solution in the cloud offers is it reduces the time to set up, procure, and provision, wait on hardware, rack and stack, and make this available to your users. It reduces the cost of having to spend all the upfront cost and ongoing maintenance and cost of adding shelves of drives, and the complexity of managing the on-premises file system with all the things that we mentioned previously, so that you can go back to focusing on things that are important to your business and things that help innovate rather than the ongoing management and maintenance of your file systems. So to help with this fully managed file system in the cloud, we have introduced Amazon FSx. It's been around for quite a few years. It's not something new we're launching today. But Amazon FSx stands for File System X, and the X stands for your choice of your workload. And so what do we mean by your choice? We mean that we want to give customers the ability to launch, run, and scale feature-rich, high-performance, cost-effective, and fully managed file system using common file systems and common OSs that you use on premises today. How many people here use NetApp ONTAP? Quite a few. Windows File Server? Yeah. OpenZFS or some sort of ZFS, a few. Lustre or some sort of high-performance scale-out file system, a few as well. So these four file systems really help provide the same like-for-like experience as managing on-prem, leveraging the same software that you use on premises today. And when we talk about NAS workloads specifically, we want the ability to migrate this like-for-like storage with the same capabilities and APIs that you're running today. So for all you NetApp ONTAP users that are familiar with ONTAP and how to do all the fun things you could do in ONTAP, like provision different types of server virtual machines and volumes and leverage the replication and cloning, you could leverage Amazon FSx NetApp ONTAP as the fully managed version of NetApp ONTAP in the cloud. If you're running Windows File Server today and some SMB shares, you could easily deploy that on Amazon FSx for Windows File Server. And the same if you're running NFS or OpenZFS. Today, you could easily deploy that on FSx for OpenZFS. Again, the benefit of being fully managed is that you just tell us how much storage you want, your performance profiles, and we handle all the rest. The setup, the installation of the OS, the provision of all the compute and the storage, and then you get all the features and functionality, leveraging the skills that you built around features within ONTAP, features within Windows File Server and PowerShell, features within ZFS that you've leveraged for your workflows over time. So you don't have to re-architect, reinvent, recertify, or retrain. You could continue using that same level of expertise in AWS that you've developed on premises over the years. So what does like for like mean? So for an example here, we've got Amazon FSx for NetApp ONTAP. Sorry, there's a lot of words on the slide. You don't have to read them all. The idea is that we give the same like for like functionality that you would get for ONTAP in the cloud. So FSx for NetApp ONTAP is the only complete and fully managed version of ONTAP file system in the cloud, meaning that it has all the features you would expect from ONTAP, as well as the fact that it's also fully managed by AWS. You don't have to go get your separate license. You don't have to go to multiple places for support. It's all included with FSx. This includes all the storage efficiencies that you would expect from running an ONTAP file system with things like data deduplication and compression. It means you get all the data management APIs of using ONTAP, as well as integration with NetApp's BlueXP, which is super helpful because when you're managing NetApp file systems from BlueXP, you just see your on-prem NetApp, you see FSx in the cloud, it's all managed from a single interface. You have the same data access capabilities, which means you have multi-protocol support with SMB, NFS, iSCSI, NVMe, SMB multi-channel support, and we've got the same data protection that you would expect from ONTAP, including application-consistent snapshots, being able to do quick clones and replication, as well as the ability to extend from on-premises. So if you need to burst to the cloud, leveraging Flex Cache, or you need to copy it for DR purposes, you can leverage native NetApp features to be able to do that. So this is just FSx for NetApp ONTAP. Think about all the things you could do with Windows File Server and PowerShell. Think about all the things that you could do with ZFS or Lustre. All that stuff is going to be the same in the cloud as you do on premises today. So I'm going to cover 4 workloads here, and I'm going to have customer examples for each, and then I'll turn it over to Nikhil. But the 4 general categories of workloads that we see customers adopt FSx for, one is general purpose file storage. So this is often when storage administrators have a centrally managed file store, serving up things like department shares, home directories, application shares. We also have a lot of high performance database and VMware data stores for things like SAP HANA, Oracle, SQL Server is very popular. Different types of line of business apps. Earlier I mentioned a couple of these, but you have energy with things like seismic and reservoir simulation, financial services where you're running applications like backtesting and risk modeling, healthcare with PACS imaging, life science, genome sequencing, M&E, video editing with things like Adobe Premiere, transcoding. You've got semiconductor EDA use cases where you need really high performance for lots and lots of really small files. These are all very popular line of business workloads we see customers adopting a wide variety of FSx services for, as well as data protection. And data protection can mean going from on-prem to AWS to keep a secondary or tertiary copy to meet your compliance purposes, or keeping your data protected within AWS. So I'll show some customer examples of each of these. We'll start with general purpose storage. A customer example here is John Holland Group. So John Holland Group is a construction-based firm out of Australia serving the wider APJ region. They were running 90+ business-critical apps in AWS, and they were running it self-managed. They set it up on EC2. They had a plan to leverage FSx. This was way back when FSx was just coming out, and they wanted to move it to FSx for Windows File Server. And they had a plan to do this over something like 6 to 12 months. Unfortunately, they had an outage, and they needed to restore really quickly. And AWS ProServe worked with them to restore within days instead of the weeks they thought it would take. Like they thought it would take weeks to recover from backups from their current self-managed solution. And with ProServe, they're able to restore from these backups directly into FSx because FSx is the same file system that they've been using, and there were no changes to their architecture required. And moving to a fully managed solution freed up their engineers to be able to go focus on driving more business value and less time managing their file systems. Next, we have databases. So databases, it's interesting. We see a lot of different database use cases. Oracle and SAP HANA were 2 that I mentioned. SQL database is a really popular use case, especially when you do things like need shared multi-AZ storage for like SQL failover clusters, as well as if you're running something like Oracle RAC and you need to get certain enterprise features. There's a lot of reasons to look at FSx for that. Change Healthcare had a number of mission critical systems that they were looking to move to AWS, which their business is very heavily reliant on. They needed to make sure that they had the same level of performance in RPO and RTO. However, when they're looking to move from their on-prem failover clusters, they were first looking to re-architect into always-on availability groups, which is a different SQL availability technology. But the cost was coming out not to their favor. We worked with them and we found that if they leveraged Amazon FSx, they could keep using failover clusters, which reduced their licensing from SQL Enterprise to SQL Standard. It also helped reduce the EC2 instances and the amount of SQL license they needed to be able to run their infrastructure as well. They're able to save over $3 million in cost. And even using SMB protocol with FSx for Windows File Server, they were still able to see 40,000 sustained IOPS performance. They were able to get all the mission critical performance they needed while still meeting their RPO and RTO cost, enabling them to fully migrate from on-prem to AWS. For line of business apps, I can't go over all of them, but one we have here is for healthcare. Healthcare and PACS imaging and image repositories is a very popular use case. If you're not familiar with eHealth, they're in New South Wales. For any Australian customers here, you're probably familiar with them. They had a lot of different types of patient records and different types of enterprise. They had an enterprise image repository, or EIR, they needed to move over. A lot of this was application driven. It's like, hey, let's take our applications to move it to the cloud, to take advantage of all the different reasons you would want to move applications to the cloud. But they're looking for the right solution to migrate their storage over to. Since they leveraged NetApp on-prem, they're able to look at FSx for NetApp ONTAP and easily migrate 1.3 petabytes of medical imaging data over to FSx using native NetApp replication software, SnapMirror. And they were able to easily replicate that over. They also saw a 10x in performance compared to what they've been doing, and $16 million overall in benefits due to avoided cost across everything, across the application benefits and the benefits of using FSx. So they loved that it provided the same familiar features such as snapshots and SnapMirror. They didn't have to make any application or data management changes, and it reduced their overall operational burden. Last one before I hand it over here is data protection. So Marriott International had a bunch of file shares, legal files that they were going to migrate to AWS. It was from disparate systems, Isilon and NetApp. They leverage an AWS storage assessment. If you're not familiar with our storage assessment, it's a complementary service that we could run to get an assessment of your environment to understand the capacity and performance profiles that you have. We're able to run that, and we uncovered an additional 800 terabytes of data than they initially had planned for. And we're able to find the data, help recommend the right service, which in this case was FSx for NetApp ONTAP. They migrated a bunch of data from their on-prem NetApp using the same SnapMirror that we saw on the previous slide. And for their Isilon systems, they leveraged, I believe, AWS Data Sync to migrate that all to FSx NetApp. And once it was in FSx for NetApp in the cloud, they were able to meet their RPO and RTO requirements by leveraging NetApp SnapMirror to replicate from one region to another. So they had that secondary copy, and they were able to meet their compliance requirements. So they're able to get over to AWS quickly, and they're able to have better DR than they were able to get on premises with this type of SnapMirror. So that's for Marriott. If you have more questions about the storage assessment, I'll be around after, and I can kind of talk about that as well. But I'm going to hand it over to Nikhil, and he'll talk a little bit more about some of the features and deep dive stuff into FSx.
Thank you. Hello, everyone. My name is Nikhil Srivastava. I'm a principal product manager on the Amazon FSx team. And as David mentioned, I'm going to be giving you a bit of a closer look into Amazon FSx. We'll talk about some of the new features and capabilities that we've released recently or released at this reInvent conference, all around the idea of making NAS storage easier to use in the cloud. So I'm going to talk about 3 different areas where we're really investing to help support customers. The first one is in leading edge performance and performance scalability. And this is about helping support customers run performance intensive, highly demanding applications while still getting excellent performance. The second is around cost optimization and helping customers manage costs and leveraging some of the FSx innovations to help them control costs. And the third is all around what we call providing agility in storage. And this ranges everything from helping customers manage complex environments simply and easily, all the way to helping customers innovate more quickly, extracting more value, and doing more with their data. So we'll walk through each of these in turn. All in all, these really provide customers with the easiest path to run NAS in the cloud. Before we dive in, we really have been investing a lot over the last few years and recently over the last year in Amazon FSx. Shown here are some of the feature launches that we've released since last reInvent. I'll talk about some of these capabilities today. I probably won't be able to cover all of them, but we can dive into several. And as David mentioned, both of us will be on stage for a few minutes after if you have any questions about any of the capabilities we mentioned. So to begin with, let's talk about performance scalability. Our FSx NAS services provide leading performance scalability for the most demanding workloads out there. And you can scale up and down your performance resources within minutes based on the requirements of the workload. So as your business needs change over time, you have that ability to dynamically right-size performance to fit your workload. So with FSx, we're continuously raising the performance bar across our service family. We're built on the latest generation innovations across AWS, across storage, across networking, across compute. And these innovations have helped us deliver some incredible increases in performance scalability. So on the right side, you can see how we've raised performance limits across the board over the last year. This is all within the last year, delivered across 3 of our FSx engines, increases in higher throughput, higher IOPS, the ability to scale different dimensions separately, such as SSD IOPS independently of storage. We're continuously investing to increase our performance limits. And these are all within a single file system. So on this slide, you can see some of the performance metrics and limits we offer for each of our FSx NAS services. You can see some of the low latencies that we deliver, the high levels of I/O you can drive. And remember, this is all within a single fully managed file systems you can create in just a few clicks in the console. So I want to talk about one dimension here, which is for our FSx for NetApp, which is the first column there. You'll see some description of the performance scalability you can get using multiple what we call HA pairs. So I want to share a little bit about what this is. This is a launch that we released in the last year and why it's important for performance scalability. So if you're not familiar, FSx ONTAP provides file storage built on NetApp's ONTAP file system. And to begin with, what we call an HA pair, or a highly available pair, is kind of like the architectural building block of an FSx ONTAP file system. It's a pair of file servers. It's in an active standby configuration where the active server is serving traffic to your clients and data is synchronously replicated between the active and standby pair. And those active and standby pairs can be located in different availability zones for additional resiliency. So in our scale-up or previous generation deployment, it used a single HA pair. So you could scale up and down the level of throughput capacity or performance resources that determined the speed at which the file system could serve traffic. And you could scale that up down from a minimum of 128 megabytes per second all the way up to 4 gigabytes per second. However, in the last year, we've launched what we call scale-out or next generation FSx for ONTAP. So in a scale-out architecture, you can actually have multiple HA pairs, and each of those pairs are in the active standby configuration, and each of those can serve client traffic. It's all part of a single file system, so a single interface, a single namespace you manage, but you can add additional HA pairs that allow you to drive more performance as your needs scale. So all in all, scale out relative to scale up can deliver up to an 18x increase in the amount of read throughput, a 12x increase in the amount of write throughput, and a 14x increase in the amount of IOPS you can drive, all within a single file system. So scale up can be a great fit for use cases like corporate file shares, DevOps workloads, some line of business applications. But for those really performance-intensive workloads, things like EDA or chip design, things like simulations, seismic analysis, a lot of the M&E workloads, you can really benefit from the scale-out architecture. So some companies that have been really using the scale-out benefits of FSx for ONTAP, one is ARM. ARM you're probably familiar with. It's a UK-based semiconductor company. They designed the ARM architecture family. And ARM wanted to scale their compute for their EDA workloads, or electronic design automation. And they turned to AWS to help modernize their infrastructure. So using FSx for ONTAP, ARM managed to achieve a 50% better workload execution time relative to what they were using on-prem. And they were able to scale up to 10 million jobs or EDA job sets per day, which are one of the atomic units of EDA workflows. All in all, they were able to leverage FSx ONTAP to benefit from the agility benefits of the cloud and to unlock a new set of scale-out capabilities. Another customer that's using FSx for ONTAP scale-out is Rivian. So Rivian is an electric vehicle manufacturer, and they were using FSx for a lot of their PLM or product lifecycle management, as well as CAE or computer-aided engineering simulations. So FSx for ONTAP enabled them to achieve 24% faster simulation time and a huge reduction in their dev test provisioning between their research and production workloads. I'll talk a little bit about that when I get to the agility portion of FSx. So we talked a bit about performance and performance scalability. Now let's talk about cost optimization. So to begin with, FSx provides out of the box a broad set of cost optimization capabilities. And this breadth is super important for customers because different workloads can benefit from different types of cost optimization techniques. If you're running a user share workload, you might be able to achieve up to 80% savings in storage by using one of the file deduplication technologies. Whereas if you're running a database workload, you might not get a lot of benefit from things like deduplication or compression, but you can use things like dynamic provisioning of resources to scale up and down as your database demands change, allowing you to achieve those cost savings. So FSx provides both file system native capabilities. These are some of the like-for-like storage efficiencies that David mentioned in one of the previous slides, things like compression, deduplication, thin provisioning, storage quotas. But there's also capabilities you get because you're using this fully managed file storage on FSx. You get to choose what storage type you want to back your file system across SSD and HDD. You get to choose your deployment type within a single availability zone or across multiple availability zones, which can help save costs. You get fully elastic backup storage. In many cases, you get automatic data tiering, and I'll talk a little bit about that in the next slide. And finally, as I mentioned, you can dynamically scale your storage and performance as your business needs change. So to add to this set of cost optimization capabilities, yesterday we announced a very exciting new launch, which is called Amazon FSx Intelligent Tiering. Intelligent Tiering is a new storage class for our FSx Managed NAS family, and it's available today for FSx for OpenZFS. And with this new storage class, FSx for OpenZFS now gives you the functionality of fully managed ZFS storage combined with fully elastic, intelligently tiered, and low-cost storage. So this is really a game changer to help customers reduce costs, simplify deployments, and reduce operational effort. How it works is it automatically grows and shrinks. It's fully elastic, so you don't need to plan or provision ahead of time. It grows and shrinks based on how much you consume. It is intelligently tiered, so it automatically moves data between tiers. We'll see how that works in a moment. And it provides low costs. So we see that intelligent tiering can help customers save up to 80% relative to the existing SSD-based storage on FSx for OpenZFS, and up to 20% less than your traditional HDD-based NAS deployments you might be running on-prem. So let's talk for a moment about how intelligent tiering works. This is just a quick overview, and I'd point you to, we had a presentation yesterday, we have a few breakout sessions, and of course you can access our website or our documentation for more details. But the new storage class comes with 3 built-in tiers. There's frequent access, there's infrequent access, and there's archive instant access. If you're familiar with S3 intelligent tiering, we use a lot of the same concepts to help customers understand how this works. And the lower 2 tiers, infrequent access and archive instant access, are cost optimized for colder data. So when data lands, it lands with infrequent access. And then if it is not accessed for 30 days, it moves to infrequent access. If it's not accessed from there for a subsequent 60 days, it moves to archive instant access. But regardless of which tier it's in, the data is instantly retrievable, and there's no access fees or data movement fees between these tiers. And within each of these tiers, as I mentioned, it's fully elastic. You don't have to choose a size, you don't have to monitor how much utilization your data is using, and you pay storage costs only for the amount of data you actually use. And all of this is within the context of an FSx for OpenZFS file system. So you get all of the benefits, all the NAS capabilities that OpenZFS provides, things like point-in-time snapshots, things like zero-copy clones, things like data replication. They come with the file server pair that you can connect to from your clients. And they come also with a built-in SSD write log. So that provides a first byte latency as low as a millisecond. And that write log is replicated. So those writes are fully durable as soon as they're acknowledged. And then finally, you can choose to provision as well an SSD read cache. So if you have recently accessed data, such as a smaller active working set, you can provision an SSD read cache, and that allows you to benefit from the low latency for your active data set, but also the low cost for your infrequently accessed data. So you're getting both high performance and low cost. So I'll share some examples of how customers have reduced cost. Since the intelligent tiering storage class was just announced yesterday, I'll talk about a customer using some of the other built-in cost optimization technologies. So Amdocs is a telecom company based out of St. Louis. They specialize in software for communications, media, and financial services companies. And they needed high performance, 10 plus gigabytes per second of throughput, copies of databases for test dev and reporting. And the challenge they faced is maintaining this infrastructure required high storage costs and high restore times. So for example, a 65 terabyte database might take more than 48 hours to restore. So using Amazon FSx for OpenZFS, they reduced the complexity as well as the cost and the restore times by benefiting from a lot of the built-in OpenZFS capabilities. So as I mentioned, they can configure capacity, throughput, and IOPS independently to optimize cost. They could use built-in ZFS compression to make sure they were reducing costs for their high-performance databases. And they could benefit from ZFS technologies such as thin clones and thin snapshots. Removing the need to implement database-level replication, they could use these clones and restore to spin up a new copy almost instantly, within seconds, rather than waiting for 48 plus hours. So we talked a little bit about cost optimization. Finally, let's talk about agility. So agility is all about giving customers more flexibility to simplify and automate their storage deployments, but also the ability to do more with their data. And this comes in a few different flavors. One of them is service integrations. So because it's an AWS service, because it's fully managed, out of the box, FSx provides native integration with a large number of other AWS services that help customers achieve this agility. So everything from being able to access their FSx file systems from different compute instances, from VMs, from containers, from HPC clusters, to being able to connect to their FSx file systems from different database or media production or search services that AWS offers, being able to run services for security, log analytics, fraud detection, being able to use data movement and data protection services, things like AWS Data Sync and AWS Backup, as well as monitoring, visualization, and automation, things like Amazon CloudWatch, AWS CloudTrail. All of these native integrations come with our FSx family. So you can spin up a file system and you can connect it to any one of these services for broader agility. Beyond just service integrations, FSx provides a lot of capabilities that provide agility for specific workload types. One example that David mentioned is clustered database workloads. So across things like SQL Server, across things like SAP HANA Scale-Out, and across workloads like clustered Oracle workloads, like Oracle RAC, FSx provides capabilities that help deliver agility for these workloads. For example, FSx has a native multi-availability deployment type. So you can run SQL Server in failover cluster instances, as David mentioned, connected to a single FSx file system and have that multi-AZ resiliency, all while saving on simplicity of managing a single file server and being able to save often on database licensing costs. For SAP HANA, FSx ONTAP is the only certified solution for SAP HANA Auto Takeover, which allows you to achieve a 0 RPO and a fully automated takeover if one of the SAP HANA database nodes goes down. And FSx OpenZFS, by providing those snapshots and cloning, enables you to achieve fast and flexible recovery for clustered Oracle workloads, being able to recover a new database within seconds, even as the size of your database scales to hundreds of terabytes or even up to a petabyte. Finally, another aspect of agility is around infra as code automation support. So a lot of FSx customers are big enterprises managing not just a single file system, but a deployment of multiple dozens or even hundreds of file systems. And these customers really benefit from our support for infra as code services such as CloudFormation or Terraform. These enable customers to standardize and automate their storage deployments, to be able to automate, test, and deploy their infrastructure through CI/CD pipelines. And it also allows them to decentralize storage management. So it enables them to enable their end users, their businesses, to create their own file systems. So two common patterns we see there. One is centrally owned storage, where you have a single shared services VPC, and you have different application VPCs. So you have a centrally owned storage. Application owners don't need to manage storage. They just connect to centrally provisioned storage. Application owners spend their time supporting the application team, supporting the application end users. But another pattern we see increasingly used is storage owners to create repeatable patterns or templates for application teams to use. So then application teams can control their own destiny. They can manage the storage that fits their needs for their application workloads, which they know best, but all within the confines of a pre-approved template. So centrally owned storage admins can ensure that all of the storage across their business are meeting compliance needs. They're all meeting the specific templates they create for these end users, but they can allow their application owners to test and scale faster without being in the loop for every storage request. So one customer that's really taking advantage of this infra as code is Technology One. Technology One is an Australian-based software provider. They deliver a suite of ERP solutions within a SaaS framework. And their previous storage environment prevented them from having the granular control over the business application data for end users. So it was difficult for them to simultaneously enforce their compliance controls and security posture while also being able to scale with their end users. So Technology One migrated to FSx for Windows, and because they achieved this single tenant deployment, in other words, a single FSx file system for each of their end customers within their SaaS environment, they were only able to do this using a heavy investment in infrastructure as code and being able to enforce the compliance regime that every one of those end customers needed to use. So they were able to achieve compliance across multiple regions. They were able to reduce system costs, and they were able to manage these single tenant environments in a really easy way with a globally consistent architecture and enabling them to ensure seamless migrations and upgrades in a way that required zero downtime for their end customers. So we talked today a little bit about Amazon FSx. We talked about some of the challenges that network-attached storage customers face and the benefits that Amazon FSx provides. We talked about performance and performance scalability. We talked about cost optimization and the broad set of cost optimization capabilities that Amazon FSx offers. And we talked about agility, helping customers simplify and automate their storage deployments and helping customers do more with their storage by connecting with native service integrations. So all in all, these capabilities we've heard from customers, and we continue to invest in them because we see they're providing customers the easiest path to run NAS in the cloud. So thank you all for the time. David and I will be hanging out for a few minutes afterwards if you have any questions. But thanks for your time and attention.